Hi. More than 20 years ago, when I ran a value tech fund called Giraffe Capital, I used to write to clients monthly. In 2001, I wrote to them that, in my opinion, Nortel would go bust. Nortel, Northern Telecom, then the premier Canadian tech stocks, just then got a new CEO who was cutting the R&D to show good earnings, which I knew would more than likely lead to much lower earnings in the future. But what's more, and far worse, there were persistent rumors that Chinese hackers were stealing Nortel's IP, intellectual properties, but no one in Canada was willing to take them on, according to my informers, because the Chinese were buying Canadian resources. The reaction to my forecast was not just ridicule, but actual shaming. Low-key, yes, this after all was Canada, but shaming nonetheless. I felt bad about it. First, because I had friends in Nortel. Second, the PR VP was not a bad fellow. But third, I knew many pension funds who held the stocks, and they were friends of mine, and yet they felt compelled to poo-poo me because of my opinion. I was made to feel ashamed of my chutzpah. That's Yiddish for cheekiness. What, did I think I knew better than all the pension fund managers and all the brokers? Especially in Canada, it is unseemly to have an opinion opposite to everyone else's. Canada is a very conformist place, even today. But I persisted, and so eventually Nortel did go bust. Now, this is not to tout my canny forecasting ability. To be true, to be honest about it, I was also wrong about some stocks at the time and missed some good ones. But nothing gave me grief that I remember like calling the bankruptcy of Nortel. However, the scoffing question of, do you really think you are smarter than everyone? That question remained with me and taught me a lesson. Because the answer, of course, is no, I'm not. Certainly not always. But when I do the sleuthing properly, yes, then I can be. And yes, so can you. The second time I was sort of shamed for the call was when Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger bought 10% of IBM. Friends asked me if they should buy too. So I called people I knew in IBM and learned what they thought of the CEO and the chairman. Their opinions about the two were unprintable. So I told my friends not to buy because I thought Warren and Charlie were wrong on this one. Once again, there was some whiff of shaming when friends asked me if I thought I was smarter than Warren and Charlie. My answer was again the same. Of course not. They are far smarter than me. But technology was and is my area of expertise. And by Warren Buffett's own admission, it wasn't his. So again, I stuck to my guns. And yet again, after 7 years of holding, Warren and Charlie saw the stake at a loss. The episode appears in my book, The Advanced Investor. You can look it up. So why do I mention these two cases? Because over the last 5 to 10 years, I've been known as the guy who believes in UFOs, today called UAPs. Why did I believe in them? Because people who testified about seeing them or who told about the US government actually holding a few crashed vehicles passed the 5 sleuthing tests I have for informers, of which I spoke to you before. These 5 tests are used by intelligence services all over the world to sift which informer is probably reliable and which is probably not. The 5 tests are these. First test, the informer must be an expert in his or her field. Second test, he or she must be reporting or something he or she had close physical contact with in his own area of expertise, so the report is first-hand, not hearsay. Third test, this informer must have been very reliable in the past. Fourth test, the informer must declare high confidence in this report too. Fifth and hardest test, the informer has been judged sane, has not become crazy in the meantime, has not been bribed to lie, and there's no patriotic incentive to lie, and is also corroborated by other reliable informers. And these other informers were many. For example, the head of Israeli NASA, the former Canadian Minister of Defense, Paul Hellyer, with whom I spoke personally, and many others with whom I spoke. And so over the years, the topic of UFOs, as reported by reliable witnesses, many of them to me, seemed probably real. But what was most convincing, again for me, was the seemingly organized shaming campaign by the US government ridiculing all who thought UFOs real, implying they were crazy. As one of the scientists who was involved in the UFOs from the beginning, Paul Hynek, said, ridicule is not part of the scientific method. Yes, not unlike the ridicule of those who thought Nortel was bankrupt before it proved to be so. So why am I telling you all this? Because tomorrow, on Wednesday, July 26, 10 a.m. in the morning, there will be a formal hearing in the US Congress with 3 witnesses about UFOs. The first is a whistleblower who was the second highest in the Air Force Intelligence Unit, who will testify that the US government has in its possession more than a dozen crashed UFOs, which it has been trying to reverse engineers, and allegedly has been lying about it for 75 years. The whistleblower will be reporting under oath, by the way, under penalty of perjury. That is, if he's found to have lied, he goes straight to jail. How is that for a liability? The other 2 to testify are Navy pilots who have been seeing these UFOs almost daily in their training, fleeting between the airplanes they were flying, whereas the superior officers refused to accept the testimonies because of shame. For many of you, by the way, this clip will likely come as a total surprise because the mainstream press has not said a thing about the coming hearing up to a day or 2 ago. Not a thing, even though it is clearly a huge historical event. Was it because the mainstream press was told not to? Who knows? Luckily, there are also the social networks, and me too. I have friends in Washington, D.C. who tell me that scuttlebutt in town. Indeed, 4 weeks ago, on June 30, I gave you a heads up about the coming hearing. So this now is a final notice. You better tune in tomorrow morning, Wednesday at 10 a.m. to C-SPAN. But why would this be important to you, who is only trying to make money in the market, or at least not to lose it? For 3 reasons. The first reason is to show you that some true things, especially big things, are often hidden completely by the mainstream media, so a large part of the market and many investors stay totally in the dark about them. So if you sleuth these things out, you get an insurmountable edge over those too lazy to create their own information channels. But second, the coming hearing tomorrow may hint at future off-world technology that may compete with some earthbound ones, perhaps even technology of stocks you own. Like what? Well, how about cheaper energy, the kind that drives the UFOs? This will certainly impact the oil stocks. It may whoop them. Or how about new metals or other new space technology? But third and key, realizing that UFOs are indeed real, which remain to be seen until tomorrow, should once again prove to you the importance of cheekiness and persistence in sleuthing, and not letting yourself be shamed and bamboozled by interested parties who tell you that you are wrong and crazy when you really aren't. Once you learn this, you will find that the stock market is perhaps the ultimate social justice machine. It takes the money of lazy-born, credulous people who don't do sleuthing and give the money to those who do and are courageous enough to maintain their conviction. So tune in tomorrow to C-SPAN at 10 a.m. and see what has allegedly been kept away from you and from everybody over the last 75 years. That's all for today. Please let me know what you think of the above. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and retweet to all your friends and followers who they subscribe to, and buy my book and write a review about it for Amazon, which I hope will be a very good one. I'll see you next time, and meantime, thank you very much for watching.